Hello, we're here for another Hope That Helps segment, our videos that help us walk with young parents and offer hope. And I'm here with
Melat.
and I'm Loreli. And earlier this week, I was speaking with Anna Maria Fruscioni, who is a registered dietitian. She gave us some really helpful tips to navigate food, didn't she, Mel?
Mm-hmm.
It was as much as they were simple, to put them into practice really can change things for us. So especially during COVID, I think what has hit me is that mealtime is the event of quarantine. What we're eating, what we're doing with food seems to be what life revolves around. So I want to ask you a very important question, Melat. What has been your comfort food during COVID?
Miss Vicky's jalapeno chips. That's where it's at.
You like it spicy?
I like it spicy and I love my chips. What about you?
You know, I do not discriminate against any snack food for comfort food. I was thinking about this, like chocolate chips, cookies, candy. My gosh, like I've sampled them all. But if I would say if there's a go-to food, it would be for me cereal, like cold cereal, because it's so easy to pour into a bowl. It's iron fortified. I mean,
there you go.
You can really justify
a little bit of healthy.
Iron fortified, calcium.
There's milk. Yes.
It's a well-balanced meal. But it brings up this idea about how our relationship with food, right? So how has your relationship food changed, if at all, during quarantine?
So for me, I think during, work, when we were out and about and I was out for the day, I would actually make point to pack like a lunch and then I would have a couple snacks because I know I'm gone for the day and I don't want to have to grab, something along the way. So I make sure I have, a yogurt or a fruit or something. Now in quarantine, I'm finding that I'm actually eating less times throughout the day. So there's really two meals. Like there's a brunch later in the day and then there's dinner. But I'm eating a lot more at those meals. So much bigger meals. And then because I'm not moving and I'm not doing anything, it doesn't digest. So yeah, two meals, just bigger meals.
Bigger meals. I'm the same. I'm eating just as many meals as I did before, but they are bigger. It's almost like, I don't know why fully. It's worth exploring, but kind of like dragging it out. Okay, that was yummy and I want more. And then definitely late night snacking. It's like, it kind of has made, it's a coping mechanism, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure.
eating food and taking into account the stress that we're under. So it's definitely changed for me.
And I think everyone's relationship with food has changed somehow in the season, right? So for some, it might be that you're eating more, snacking more often. Some are just not eating at all because of that stress, and you're constantly people just respond differently to stress. And for some, they're so stressed out about what they're eating, right? So I think everybody's relationship with food has changed in the season.
Yeah, it is very interesting, and that's why we decided to take a look at it. And Anna Maria in the video said, and this is really, it feels really simple, this point, but really important to get back to, that food is for nourishment and enjoyment. So a lot of the information that we have about food is, how best to nourish our bodies. And there's this other piece of enjoyment. Keeping in mind that this quarantine has us in a different state and stress. So let's be kind to ourselves, which is a great point that Anna Maria brought up. But I want to tap into the enjoyment, because I think it's really important that we not just eat mindlessly, but mindfully. So considering how to bring back enjoyment might help us feel better about our consumption habits. So I've been asking the question, how can we, how can you, how can I, how can our young parents make mealtime more meaningful? So one of the first things that I was thinking about as I think about those 3 meals I still partake in is, and a lot, is actually saying grace. This is a Christian faith practice to say a prayer before a meal, thanking God for our food. And if we do that, it helps refocus the purpose of food in our life, right? We're not just consuming necessarily to cope, but we actually are cultivating this attitude of thankfulness and gratitude. And so we eat more mindfully when we take seriously that prayer. Now, some people who do not share the Christian faith, even taking a moment to be thankful for the food in front of them could serve a similar purpose.
For sure. And even getting the kids to do it too, right? Like I know around our table, the kids take turns praying and saying grace. So something for the kids to also get engaged in.
Yeah, I agree. And we've actually posted in our online support group a couple of sample grace prayers, and we'll do a couple more of those. That could be good practice to try them out, right?
For sure. And I think another major way to make this a meaningful event is also changing our language. When Anna Maria talked about everyday foods versus sometimes foods, that completely changed my outlook on this whole idea of, oh, that's junk, which is something I've always said to my kids. Oh, you don't want to eat, no, let's not eat junk or whatever, right? It took that element of guilt out of eating for me, because you constantly are told that's junk food or that's unhealthy food or whatever, right? But when you can reframe the language and think that's sometimes food, right? Yes, obviously I don't want to have a bag of chips every day, 3 times a day. Definitely not. But it's okay if I have it once in a while. And there's no guilt to that. Like I'm gonna enjoy my bag of chips and not feel bad about it, right?
Yeah.
So, and especially in the season of COVID, being extra compassionate to ourselves, right? Because this is just it's just an unpredictable season where we haven't exactly had a manual to how to navigate a pandemic, right? So just being extra gracious to ourselves in the season, I think, helps with making it a meaningful event.
Totally. For me too, it's helped me think more about my relationship with food. This takes a little bit more digging, I would say, into why we go into certain modes when we're under stress, right? And I can think actually of some behaviors that I inherited. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, but just examining some things, I think when I was young, or actually I watched the grandma behavior of my mom in years previous when my kids were crying, and she would say, oh, have a cookie. It consoles us, and that makes sense of why we might go to food. But we also do need to take some ownership of some of those patterns. Are these things that have been passed down to us, and we're eating mindlessly because that's what we've been taught to do to cope? So it is good to make it meaningful, is to actually look at reasons why we are doing this, to again have compassion for ourselves, because this is behavior and patterns of behaviors that were taught to us, patterns of behavior that we've engaged in, but also remembering that our kids are watching, that we get to use this as so when we make it more meaningful, we get to use this as an opportunity to help them navigate food as well.
And keeping in mind that they also are going to inherit some of that stuff, right? Right? We're passing that down to them. Yeah. And another way I think also is slowing down, right? One thing we definitely have a lot of in the season is time. We're all home. And yes, Toronto especially is a culture of just eating out. We go out with friends, family, we're constantly with people enjoying food. And now we've been stripped of that enjoyment, right? We've been deprived of that. But I think if we can make mealtime a time where we actually can sit and enjoy and not rush, right? Like it's just eat and go is something that we often do when we're in a hurry. But now in COVID, we got lots of time. And I know in our households, one thing that the kids have done in the past, and I think sometimes do also, is they call it Master Chef, where I'll cook a meal and they'll take turns judging the meal. They'll talk about, oh, the dessert was, you know, a little extra this or a little that, or the pasta was a little cheesy or something, right? And actually, they're taking time to enjoy the flavors and take it in,
Right.
right? And as they're judging it, they're actually letting me know what they like and don't like. But you
True.
can see them engaging with the food and also engaging around the table, and we're talking about it. So we're taking
Yeah.
time. So I found that, like, even now, I mean, my kids are a bit older too, but they know I love candles. So they light a candle at dinner time.
Mm,
So just taking that time to just slow down and enjoy mealtime and making
yeah.
it, and it is an, you know, an event
Yes.
now, right?
It
So
it is an event, and whether we recognize that or not, um, it is a huge part of our
mhm,
quarantine. And so
for sure.
maybe just pressing into that to say, okay, it already is occupying so much time. How do we make it meaningful? And that is what we want to leave you with. We also recognize that this is a can be a difficult thing for people. There is a lot of shame and guilt for many um, people around food, the consumption of food. And so we want to first say, uh, give yourself grace for the journey, be kind to yourself.
Mhm,
Um, and that there is, we would love to invite you to speak more about it. We have a professional counselor who, if this is something that is really concerning you during this season, then we would love to connect you with her. Um, if it's something that is preoccupying you, and it is an area where you are hoping to seek help. Otherwise, we love to encourage each other through our online support groups to have more of these discussions to help each other along the way. As always, we hope that helps. Thanks, and talk to you next time. Bye.
bye.